Greetings and salutations, my fellow Barn on Warriors. This is Chris, and this is my channel, Barn on 11970. And as always, I would like to thank you all for taking the time to listen to what I have to say. Now, as usual, while I'm waiting for a couple of people to figure out that I am doing a live show, I just want to let everybody know that all my live shows, I have an availability of question and answers. So anytime you see the show going live and you want to see or participate in the question and answers, actually, all you have to do is you have to have a Google Plus page, and then you go to my Google Plus page, and you will see the live broadcast there. If you click on it, you will all of a sudden see the ability in the new window opening to get a ability to ask any questions or make any statements. So I always encourage that. And we already got a bunch of people that are coming in, so welcome. And this one is important. Excuse me. Now, one of the beautiful things about having my own businesses is it allows me to have time to do a lot of research. So when most people work 9 to 5, they're focusing most of their time on their jobs. I'm able to stay at home and do a lot of research. And one of the good things about doing research is after a while, you start to notice patterns. That's what they call trends. That's why if you ever heard of people like Gerald Celente and other people, they do things like trends in the news, because when you hear things repeatedly, you know there's a pattern, and there's usually a reason for it. And especially in government, there's always a reason for things happening. And this is very important to pay attention to, because I've said for years, you got to focus on symbolism, you have to focus on words, and when they're repeated, there's a reason for it. Now, if you've been watching my videos for a while, you know that I always talk about whether you want to vote Republican or Democrat. It doesn't matter, because the system is rigged. We're already seeing this left and right. They've already have WikiLeaks out saying that Hillary actually didn't win. They actually say it was Barry Sanders that won, and they were rigging all the votes, which I've said for years, but people laugh and mock. But the proof is coming out, so things are being leaked. Now, with that being said, if you notice, politicians tell you what you want to hear, and they basically go by what the trends are. So if, for example, with Hillary Clinton, back in the 90s, when more people were against gay marriage, she then was against it. Now that more people are for it, she's now for it. This is the typical thing politicians do. They flip-flop, and all you have to do is go back to their track records. That's a beautiful thing about videos. As much as people want to say you can't get information from videos, videos capture events. So go back and see the history of people's track records to see what they're really like. Don't go based on what they're telling you now, because they're basically going to pander to you to get your vote or your activity, to register. That's what they love people doing. Because remember, to vote, you have to be labeled a citizen. And if you don't know the legal definition of citizen, it means you are agreeing that you are a corporate-owned entity, and ignorance of the law is no excuse. So, but that's not what this video is about. Since I've been watching a lot of the both Republican and Democratic conventions, I notice, especially on Trump's side, and I know everybody wants to think Trump is going to be a savior, and I understand, because he talks very well in the sense of not being a politician. He has called people out. I give credit where credit is due, but there is one pattern that I don't know how many people have noticed, and they are drilling in constantly: radical Islamic terrorism. They drill it to the point where they want people to regurgitate that. So they are planting that seed in your mind. Radical Islamic terrorism. They say it over and over and over again. That is no accident. They set people up with their words because most people don't pay attention to it. You wonder why people like Donald Trump use the words like lying Ted and crooked Hillary all the time. It's because all of a sudden you say something long enough, it becomes attached into your own brain. And how many people start using those words themselves? So when they specifically, repeatedly say something, it is not done on accident. It is to program. And the sad thing is, most people don't realize this. So here's what I think is going to be happening. Now, I've said with all the videos I watch and all the research I do and all the time I have to look at this stuff, and I am willing to sacrifice, going to the movies and doing all this other stuff for this, because I think it should do good if you spread truth. So I don't mind it. I mean, you know, I'm no martyr or anything like that, but I want to play my part. I don't want to just pretend nothing's going on and just go about my own way. They are drilling in the fact about wanting people to hate Muslims and Islam. Now, I've said with all the things that I've been researching and everything, I just get this vibe. Now, I could be wrong, and I don't have anything to back it up. So this is going on my own instincts. So whether you want to listen to that or not is up to you. I really don't care because I trust my instincts. And if you know how governments work, when they are saying something repeatedly, they're trying to set you up with something. Now, what governments love is people who protest, people who fight, people who want to shoot back, people that want to use violence as an answer, because then they could use your emotions against you and they can create more control. So they will get you mad, they will get you to instigate fights, they will get you paranoid, and then they can easily control you. And you'll never realize it happened because when you're in an emotional state, you don't think clearly. I mean, you ever have, I mean, I'll give you a prime example of why I'm so glad the things that happened to me in the past happened to me, because I say you can always learn from something. Back when I first started making videos, my first original channel, Barn on 11967, I got attacked all the time from people. Now, some were kidding around, so they say, and others would continually hammer me, no matter what I did. And I got to the point where, because back then I didn't know what I know now, I got so mad at all these attacks when all I was doing was trying to help people that I got so angry I wanted to fight someone. Physically wanted to hurt somebody. And what did that do? It damages my own credibility. So it shows that when you get people to a certain emotional state, you don't think rationally. Now, at that time, I had the death of my father, and I was going through some marital problems at the time. So emotionally, that sets you up. And then when you have all these people attacking you, it will make you not think clearly. So I am very glad those situations happened back then because I've learned so much from them. All things happen for a reason, and you could take the worst case scenario and learn something from it to make it positive into your future. So that's what the trolls don't understand. They still use the argument if I want to fight somebody back in 2012, but here you are seeing that I can admit it because I understand the situation. So what they love doing to people all around the world is suckering you by using your emotions to the point where you get so angry, so passionate, so fearful that you don't think rationally anymore. And you'll see this when you just see typical rallies. Like if I was a person, let's say I was a Republican, and I wanted to talk to one person that says they're a Democrat, we could sit down, talk peacefully, and maybe have a dialogue. But when you have hundreds of people, they start ganging. They have a gang up mentality, and it becomes a singular energy. And it could be easily pushed over the edge with one simple little trigger. So they're gearing everybody up for this. Now, obviously, like I said, I'm not part of the problem. I don't work for the Rothschilds or Rockefellers. If I had my way, they would all be in prison right now, at the very least. I think they're scum of the earth. And anybody that thinks they have the authority to control the masses over others has a vanity that needs to be very much silenced. That's my opinion. But they are gearing people up to get onto the emotional roller coaster. Now, Donald Trump's role, in my opinion, is to get the warmongering ready to go. Get the gun-toting people to start saying, build that wall, block people out. We don't trust Islamic terrorists. Everybody could be, anybody in the brown-colored skin could be a potential terrorist. They're getting people angry. They're getting people frustrated, and he's very smart. He's using what hurts people. The fact that we don't like that we're being controlled. The fact that the media is a lying scumbag propaganda machine. The fact that people are poor, that we're struggling. They're feeding off of that and using that. So it will rile up your emotions. So if and when there is a quote-unquote event, people are going to react, and that's going to create more control. So here's what I'm thinking based on the trends that I am seeing. Now, I hope I am wrong, but I've said a couple of times on other videos that I think around the September area, because it has to be before the elections, because if it doesn't happen before the elections, they can't control it and hide behind the smoke and mirrors to make you not pay attention to the actual quote-unquote voting, because votes don't matter. If you think votes count at this point, you're oblivious. So there has to be some kind of event that will affect and distract the world. So that means it would have to be sometime between now and before November. Now, traditionally, the hotter the weather is, the more people are susceptible to emotional problems. You ever have a person that it gets so hot they just get mad? There's a reason for that. The temperatures can affect people. So the best time would be anywhere between now and the beginning of September, because once you get past the mid of September, it starts cooling down. So emotionally, the best time to target people is going to be when it's very hot because it gets people agitated. And that's why I was predicting sometime around the beginning of September to expect some kind of event. Now, when you think about the reason that they keep mentioning radical Islamic terrorism, well, that means there are only two major locations that an event can take place. So we can eliminate places like South America, we can eliminate places like Australia, we can eliminate places like Asia, because they're just not going to have those kind of fears, and there's not going to be as many Islamic terrorists because they supposedly come from the Middle East. So the two locations where this coincidental situation may occur would either be here in the United States of America Corporation or somewhere in Europe, most likely around the middle part of Europe, maybe near Germany or somewhere in that area, because there's a lot of tension going on there. Now, that will distract people from the euro. That will distract people from the Brexit, which no one talks about anymore. And that's what happens. You could tell the truth, you could expose things, and people just have a memory that they forget because they distract you all the time. Or it's going to come here to the United States, where they supposedly blame one of the hundreds of thousands of people Trump says we cannot document. So he's already planted the seed of fear. He keeps telling people all the time in his speeches. And again, I'll give props what props are due. He talks about exposing the fraud of the media and the politicians. Well, he wants to be one of them. He works with all of them. If he's in the Republican Party. So when he says politicians are corrupt, does he just mean the Democrats? You might assume that, but I highly doubt that. You know how they kind of have to tell you what they're doing before they actually do it, but it's not their fault that most people can't pick up on it? So I don't know what's going to happen, but I can promise you this and I hope I'm wrong, that sometime between now and mid-September, and I know some people can say, oh, he's just randomly guessing. Well, I'm not part of the problem. I don't know. If I did, I probably would not be alive at this point, or I would be so paid off I wouldn't bother to care about other people. So you can't predict it. But if there is an event that has to do with quote-unquote radical Islamic terrorism somewhere in either Europe or the United States in that particular time period, that's one hell of a coincidence. Or it's the fact that they're setting these things up, because the average people just don't care. I mean, look at what's going on. I have a video that I posted yesterday that somebody else posted that shows that they were paying people to replace the real delegates that were booing for Hillary Clinton at the DNC. Nobody cares. Nobody talks about it. So it doesn't, at this point, it's almost like irrelevant and a waste. I feel almost a waste of time for me to even talk about it, because the majority of people won't do anything. And even if that does happen, you'll get the trolls coming and saying, oh, he just made a guess. He just randomly said at this specific time, and look, something just happened. Those things happen. So they'll always find a way to discredit. My thing is, the like buttons and the sharing and the numbers, they're all rigged. They're keeping it silent. No news media coverage will ever happen. So I'm warning the people that care and want to pay attention. Now, does this mean anything's going to happen? No. Does it mean it could be paranoid? I'm sure that could be a possibility. I don't take anything out of an equation unless it's been disproven. So it's not being negative, it's not being paranoid, it's not being afraid, it's being realistic to see the whole picture. Our governments are not exactly the peacekeepers of the world. We have military all over the world. We're setting up, you ever play the game of Risk, where you set up all your pieces to dominate the earth? Well, we have hundreds of bases around the world. That's telling you something. And when they keep telling you about the radical Islamic terrorism, they want that programmed into your brain. So if there's an event that happens, they can say, oh, see, we tried to warn you, we're the good guys. Problem, reaction, solution. This is the thing. The problem is radical Islamic terrorism. The reaction is something's going to happen and the people are going to want to be saved. And the solution is the governments will come in and say, oh, we'll save you. And then all of a sudden you'll see some kind of law being passed or some kind of army or martial law, something where there's more control. And they sucker people in every single time. And it's amazing how easy it is. It's almost to the point now, think of a fisherman with a net, where all they have to do is just place the net into the ground and the fish will jump into the net. And the other fish that didn't jump in the net, when one of the fish says, don't jump in that net, the other fish will say, you're crazy. You're a crazy conspiracy theorist. So what you want to do with this information is up to you. I wish I had more information. I'm just going based on what I see and the repeated pattern that I'm noticing because I pay attention and I am not limited to one side. That is what happens when you pick a side. When you pick a side, you can't see all sides. Because remember, ladies and gentlemen, when you have a coin, you could look at the side that shows, if you have a quarter, you could look at the side that shows the face of George Washington all you want. That doesn't mean the eagle on the other side doesn't exist, just because you choose to not look at it. So when you limit yourself to one ideal, to one belief system, and you keep it that way no matter what evidence comes your way, well, all you are doing is hurting yourself and those you say you supposedly love and that you want to supposedly protect. This is why they are so arrogant at this point, that they could put this stuff out and be so sloppy about it and be called out on it, and still nothing happens. It's almost like, for example, you have a relationship where one spouse is cheating on the other, and they get caught, and they just apologize, and the other person accepts it. And then the person does it again, same thing happens. Does it again, same thing happens. Eventually you get so arrogant, you say, well, I could do whatever I want because the person's just going to forgive me anyway. No consequence. And I've said so many times, people have to take responsibility. This is we, the people. If you want to let other people run your life, don't be surprised that they run your life, just not in the way that you want it to be. Please show me an example throughout history of your time being on this planet where politicians have improved your life completely better. I mean, yeah, they'll throw some fiat currency your way, which will be great up until the time it no longer has the same value it does. Then what do you do with it? They bribe people with these fiat currencies that they are going to devalue. I mean, just look at how much they're printing about it. If you know anything about supply and demand, the more of a supply, the less of a demand, the less value it has. And the numbers that they show, look how high they are. And I guarantee you that's not exactly what the numbers are supposed to be. We have a question or a statement right here, so I'm going to read this. 777 says, and I always thank people that want to ask questions or leave statements. And as usual, if you want to do that, you have to have a Google Plus page. That's not for me. That's a requirement from YouTube because they like to make this things. They want truth and information to be difficult. And when I was on my comic book channel and I used to do live shows, there used to be, when you were on a live show like this, on the YouTube video, there would be a screen, a little thing that you could click on that said, be a part of the conversation, click here, and it would take you to that site. So you could do it straight from YouTube. Now, all of a sudden, that feature is gone, or what it is the first second of the video, you have to catch it right away, otherwise it won't work. So YouTube wants to make this very difficult. I wonder why, because they like to control things, because they're part of the problem. Conspiracy theorist people are going to say that's crazy. That's fine. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. So if you don't have a Google Plus page, it won't work. If you do, follow me on Google Plus, and you will see on the event page when I post these, the ability to just look at the live show as it's going, click on that to open the window, and you will see the ability to ask a question or make a statement. I always encourage it. I will never do the scrolling live chat because I don't want bombardment of spam and trolls saying stupid things. They go so fast, you'll never get to see any of the statements anyway. This way I can take my time, and if there's 100 questions, I can answer all 100 without missing a beat. So you may not approve of that, you may not be used to that, but that's a beautiful thing about my channel. I do it the way that I feel is best. So 777 says, there wasn't a problem with radical Islam until the USA Corporation went into the Middle East. That is exactly right. The way you control a country is you first go to somebody that is a leader of that specific area, and you give them two choices. You can make them wealthier beyond their wildest dreams and help protect them against their enemies if they play ball, or you tell them you murder them. So you give a leader a choice. Now, let's just say you are the leader of a country. Let's just call it Happyville, somewhere in the Middle East, and your state of Happyville has a diamond mine, has a gold mine, has a lot of lumber, some lithium, and you are the ruler of Happy Land. And all of a sudden, you're approached by the Rothschild type banks, and they say to you, of course in private, because this will never be public, you have two choices. Now, I see in Happy Land there are people that have tried to overthrow you, and you don't have a lot of money to finance your security, and we can come here and protect you. We can lend you, we'll set up a bank, and we can lend you all the money you want. So you can build up your army, you can protect yourself, and you and your family will be very wealthy. If you don't want to do that, well, see that guy over in this picture from Not So Happy Land? Well, he's going to take over and he's going to fall in your place. So, of course, most of them are going to say, okay, fine. So they'll get to keep their power. They will get all of this unlimited funds that they can borrow, which they think is a great thing, and they will be very wealthy. Screw the people. What do they care? They care about their family and the people they're connected with. Wouldn't anybody? That's why when you see some stranger you've never met on the news, you hear they're murdered, you might feel bad, but you're not going to, call in sick for work because you don't really care. I mean, that's the blunt, honest truth. You might feel bad, but it's not going to affect you as if it was a family member or a friend. So when these people in power in these countries of your happy land, you find out that when you borrow money, you owe a thing called interest. So let's say they lent you $1 billion. You make a great little army. You're nice and wealthy. You're driving around in a solid gold limo. Everything's perfect. Now, you've spent a lot of that money, so how are you going to pay it back? Even just the principal amount of itself. But they accrue interest over time, which over the years, if you borrow more, the interest payment goes higher. And eventually they say, hi, we're looking for your payment. We see you're not able to keep up with the payments. No, I can't keep up with it. I don't have the money. I mean, we actually had to borrow it, so how could we have ever paid it back? Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. So we see that you used your diamond, gold, and platinum mines as collateral. Well, we'll let you stay in power. We'll let everybody think you're still in control, but now those items belong to us. That is how they control these countries. You ever wonder why Africa is so poor when they have the biggest diamond mines, gold, platinum mines? They have oil. Remember, most of the Middle East is northern Africa. So they have plenty of oil, plenty of lumber, plenty of lithium, plenty of gold, plenty of silver, plenty of platinum, plenty of diamonds, and yet they're a poor nation. Anyone ever stop and think as to why? It's because the leaders of each area, each little territory, have been bought and sold or replaced with somebody who will be a puppet leader. They get millions of dollars. Their families are very well protected and taken care of. The people are basically sacrificed and used as pawns. All of the actual riches that they have are confiscated as collateral for failure to pay debt. That is what causes the tension around that area. Now, if you were a citizen, quote unquote, of Happy Land, that area that just got taken over, and now your diamond mine and your gold mine and all the stuff that you used to make lots of money on are now no longer, that you don't have access to it, and your country is losing money, and you're becoming poor because all of that money that you're supposedly making is now being outsourced to the banks that lent you the money. So now you went from a wealthy, happy nation to a bunch of people starving to death. Now, just imagine if you decided, oh, I can't take anymore, and you and your fellow Happy Land citizens decided to pick up their guns and go have a revolution. And then all of a sudden the media labels you as a terrorist. And they all fight against you. And since they control the media outlet, they will make up whatever story they want, and people will believe it, because you, the people of Happy Land, will be silenced, and your information will not be able to get out. So let's say somebody from the next land, not so happy land, bombs Happy Land, and you bomb them back in retaliation. Well, the news will all of a sudden show you are the aggressor. They will not happen to mention that you were bombed first and you're just responding. So they control the media. And that's what's going on. And that's what we're seeing. So, ladies and gentlemen, I've said it hundreds of times. You could vote Democrat, you could vote Republican. First of all, it's not who makes the votes and places the votes, it's the people who count the votes. They were rigging things to the point where several states now are making lawsuits, which will never go through the system because, duh, the judges are bought and sold and they're part of the corrupt system. So they're just going to make you wait months. And by the time they even get them into the courts, the presidency election will already be over. So it will be irrelevant at that point. I don't know, and what's going to happen is, like, even places like YouTube, they're going to focus on, like what I showed yesterday, the PewDiePies in the world and all the other channels. It's not like I'm saying PewDiePie is evil or anything. He has nothing to do with it. But they are going to allow channels like that to be very well noticed. So this way you're distracted. Look at the dancing clown, ladies and gentlemen. Don't pay attention to the man behind the curtain. So I really think we're being set up. I really think the fact that they keep mentioning that, to me, is no accident. And if you don't pay attention, you're going to miss it, and it's placed right in front of you. It's like I've always said, hidden in plain sight. So I've had to go through all my trials and tribulations through these years to finally understand the purpose of all of this stuff. I hope I'm wrong. I will be glad to be wrong. But if you look at the history of what governments do, they tend to not be very honorable. So what you take from this is up to you. My thing is, I recommend you share it. I recommend you talk about it. You watch it with other people because obviously the numbers are going to be rigged. YouTube is going to do everything it can to keep these things minimal. That's why I can have 25,000 subscribers and have a video that has 300 to 500 views. If I was talking about video games, I guarantee you that would not be the case. When I had my comic book channel, I had less than 3,000 subscribers and I was averaging 300 to 500 views. What does that tell you? So, I mean, considering how many emails I get and comments I get from people who appreciate what I do, I don't think the majority of people are tired of what I'm saying and don't like what I'm saying. Because otherwise they just unsubscribe. I think a lot of it is just people are not getting notifications. People are telling me constantly when they thumb up my video, it doesn't register. The numbers are not being shown the way they're supposed to be. So, you take it from there. If you want to think that's paranoia, that's fine. But I'm not going to be, disillusioned, and I'm also not going to get frustrated to the point and give up. I mean, there are times, yeah, you'll get frustrated and you'll move on for a little bit, but this is too important to me at this point. So what you do is up to you. So that's all I want to talk about. Be careful, because like I said, I have a feeling somewhere around late August, early September, either in Europe or in the United States, some kind of event is going to happen to distract people. I hope it's wrong, but the fact that they keep saying radical Islamic terrorism, they're getting people paranoid, they're getting people angry, and then when you use your emotion instead of your logic, you will react instead of think. And that's what they want. They want a bunch of angry or scared people they can easily control. So if you want to be one of those people, just pretend none of this stuff happens. It will not happen to me. I am not going to be a sheep that they can just corral into their little slaughter chamber willingly. If they want to take me, that's a different story. If they're taking a free human being against their will, that's on them. I don't consent to those kind of things. But I will not go willingly by pretending nothing's wrong just for a bunch of fiat currency that eventually will be worthless or becoming more and more worthless. That's up to you. So what you do with this is totally up to you. Regardless, I appreciate those that watch, but obviously you could see when I do a title like this, I'm getting 53 viewers. I've had an average of 50 to 70 viewers this entire video. If I talk about peace, love, and happiness and regular stuff, I'll get 5 or 6. And as usual, when I say that, I guess the trolls decide to leave at that point, so 3 or 4 people just left. Good riddance to them. I can't wait to see what troll comment they make now that I could just delete and ignore and laugh at. So if you want to leave a regular comment because you are a caring human being that wants to make actual change, leave a positive comment. If you're an idiotic troll with nothing better to do, create your fake account with nothing that contributes to society and say your stupidity that I can block and no one will see. Other than that, hit subscribe if you want to. Do your own videos and be alert and pay attention and have a great day.